Bystanders. Interesting title for a horror movie. I don't know that says anything one way or the other. So let's see what the IMDb plot says and see if that gives us a clue what is going on here. A group of murderous frat boys get more than they bargained for when they cross paths with a couple coming home from a wedding. Hmm. But who are the bystanders then, and what is happening here? Well, we'll find out. I'll get into this here in a second. Um, so this is a fairly new movie here, and I will have to say, I don't know if it's necessarily a spoiler or not. I really knew very little about this movie. I know that I put up a press release for it on Promote Horror, but didn't really dig too deep into it. I think I kind of watched it just because it has a kind of poster that kind of stands out and kind of gives me, you might want to watch this movie and see what happens. So that's kind of why I did. Also, reading the plot there kind of, rings, a good bell in my head. Like, hey, this could be some good stuff here to watch. But I guess there's a little twist there, but I guess it kind of is given away there in the plot. So I'm not going to promise to be spoiler free completely in this one. So, I'm not going to go out of my way to give anything away, but I guess, I will talk a little bit about who these bystanders are and their role. But like I said, it's kind of given away already in the plot there. So, I might be giving away a little bit something here, but I'm not going to give away the ending or anything like that. So, not completely spoiler free. But anyway, so yeah, I just kind of give this one a shot, no real expectations and so forth. Basically, the beginning of the movie seems like almost a somewhat typical kind of horror movie here. We have young girls meeting young guys. Young guys have bad intentions. The girls really are clueless to these bad intentions, and then kind of things go downhill from there. That's the basic of the basic there. But yeah, I think the girl's name was Abby, if I'm not mistaken. Her and a couple of her friends meet some guys. They're gonna have this frat party, which is not really a huge frat party, but whatever. And they go there, and they suffer the same fate as unfortunately many women do. Many young women do. They get drugged by the guys, and these guys obviously have some bad intentions. As that usually when you drug someone, you do have bad intentions. But these young guys have it in their head that they're going to release the women out into the woods and kind of hunt them down, and that's their thing to do. And apparently they've done this before. Will not say that they're probably the best people at it, but regardless, they've done it before, and I guess they were successful at it. But that's kind of what's happening here. So we go through that kind of setup, and the girls, I think there was three of them, get released out into the woods, and the general focus ends up on Abby. She's on one of the girls there, and she's trying to escape, and she ends up coming across this car, and we do get to meet this couple. We kind of see them, as they're, driving, as we also on the other end see some of the events of the girls getting set up to be released into the forest here. So you see a couple kind of just driving through. You get some general idea of who they are, where they're coming from, and so forth. And until, kind of Abby crosses paths with them. And, we kind of get this scene, and, the boys catch up to her, her now with these two people. And the boys, obviously think they have the upper hand because they're armed. And, they're ruthless killers because they are, and they've done this before. And, you're thinking that this couple is just a couple driving down the street and, are not really equipped to save this girl. And we get the whole scene with, oh, you guys can, turn her over and walk away, or, let's negotiate and blah, 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 this and that. And then, we get a little bit of that. Then before you know it, the woman has taking Abby, run into the forest, and you're kind of distracted by everything that's going on here. And then the man is left behind with a couple of these boys here. And, as they're kind of make their escape, Abby's like, well, what about your husband? Is he going to be okay? Yeah, he's fine. He can take care of himself. Yeah, okay, he can take care of himself. So then we have these boys here. Some of them go chasing after the women. The other ones are, stay and kind of have this showdown with this guy. And there's a little bit of a fight scene that kind of occurs, and the guy's kind of wins the battle and kind of flips things on him, and basically has the boys eventually run away into the forest and say, you're going to be now the hunted ones. And that's kind of how they're going to go. The women, the one woman who runs away with Abby, she's going to end up killing one of the boys. And she also comes back, and again, she's also there. I should say she was also there along with Abby, as the rest of the boys are forced to run away into the forest there, now on the other end of it. So I guess that's a little bit of the twist here. And I guess I could have said at this point I would have been spoiler free, at the top. But I think that would have left me with little to talk about. So I guess that's one of the twists there. I won't say too much about where the story ends up, and kind of give away the finalness of it. I guess there's a small twist. I don't think there's anything blockbuster after that. Kind of, as I'm watching that, I'm kind of like, okay, so do we try to do something different there? Okay, maybe we did. So and kind of give them a little bit of credit for that. As I think about that, and as I think about doing this review, I was thinking about another movie that I watched and made my top 10 of 24, which was Low Lives, and how that one also kind of seemed to go down a very familiar route, and as far as what we've seen in horror movies, and then kind of have a surprise twist there, and then kind of go down its own path after that. And I really liked that movie, obviously. It made my top 10, a huge surprise for me. So as I'm, was kind of thinking about this movie, and after watching this movie, I was thinking about this movie had the possibility to do a very similar thing and kind of go a similar route to give you a typical setup, a setup that we've seen before, flip it, try to give you something different and make it, but to me, it just didn't. It didn't. And, I really think that I did like the idea there. I liked what they tried to do. But it just becomes too drag, and it just becomes too much talk and too much, really too much talk. And I'm not going to say that I was the biggest fan of most of the acting in this movie. Not really to the point where I had, you guys know, I tell you all the time, if there's plenty of stuff that I watch that I turn off that I just can't deal with. I didn't turn it off. It wasn't so bad that I had to turn it off. But they were just, it wasn't to my supreme liking. And on top of that, they were just talking too much. I think that all the talking would have been better served if the people talking were maybe a little bit better. Again, I don't want to, I don't like throwing people under the bus like that or saying things like that. But I don't know, like I just wasn't really feeling it, and they were just talking an awful lot. Yeah, some people are going to die in this movie, that was good. But it also seemed like just excessive talk just to set up an excessive, kill. We end up, finding out, stuff about the couple, why they kill, why they're okay with all this. But when we do, they just do so much talking, and it's like, oh my God, like, just no. And, some of the people, they one guy, they literally drag with them just so they can torture him. It's just, go on and on about, what they do, where they came from, how they became that way, this and that, and then they end up, the people they end up killing, there's excessive talk with them too, and it's just too much talk, I guess, and you can say that about my reviews. I talk too much. I'm fine with that. I get it. I do. I can't help it. But just in the same way, it is just too much on and on and on. Can we kill and move on? Can we just go? And not that, and the movie only, as I see here, an hour and 22, so it's not like the movie dragged on, but it just, okay, we got the point. They're killers. Let's get to the killing. Let's, stick to that. And we have to learn all this other stuff about them. And like I said, it is not, they're doing the best, most fabulous job. So, it just prolongs the, like, come on, let's move. Whereas, like I said, the Low Lifes movies, it flipped it, had the good twist, but kept it up going, had some bloody scenes. The characters were good. Had some good comedy in it, and I think this one maybe tried to have not as much comedy as that one, but maybe here and there. But it wasn't working. Again, they're supposed to be serial killers, so it almost felt like, okay, so because we're going to drag out these deaths as opposed to just killing someone to just kill them on the spot. Like, just do it. We have to talk to them, and they have to talk back, and there's, and just the scenes where stuff is supposed to be dramatic, and like even the fight scene early on where the boys are going to fight him, and we don't really know what he can do, what they can do, what's going to happen here. The whole fight sequence is just not, greatly executed. They try to make it a little bit more dramatic than it is. It just, I don't know what the budget is here. Maybe it was just a little bit low budget and whatever. I don't know. I liked the idea. I liked what they tried to do here. Just the whole execution at the end of the day just didn't work for me. Even one scene where they end up in the house, I guess it was the frat house or whatever, and they go to kill one of the boys, and they go into the bathroom there, and there just happens to be a bathtub, and it just happens to be filled with water, and they're going to then persist to drown the boy in this water. Who just leaves a bathtub filled with water there, and it's just so convenient there, and then I don't know, like, I just, and then we're going to do it, and then we're going to talk through it all, and this and that as well. So, just take that as another example of just, what the hell? Like, it just, that didn't work either for me. So yeah, there are moments where there's blood, they one of the boys, they stab him several times. That I'm all for that kind of stuff and whatever. But I don't know. It just didn't work. I don't know if it's the acting, the prolonged talking, what is all that necessary? I would just kill the boy. The boys were bad. They've done this before. They probably, in a horror movie, type situation here, they were the ones that deserved to die in the movies to do it. Also, at the beginning of the movie, she's there, or Abby's there with two other friends who, are set free. Unless I missed it, I don't know if the boys killed them, they escaped, what happened to them. Obviously the movie ends up centering on her, and, being there with these two serial killers now and kind of flipping the script. But what happened to her two other friends? Like, maybe I missed it. Maybe they were there at the end and I was just like had enough of it already. Or maybe I missed one of the boys saying, "Oh, we killed the other two," and whatever. I don't know. Like I said, they try to give a small little twist at the end, or towards the end, which again was okay. Okay, so again, not doing bad with the twist here, but just the overall execution of everything in between is just. Also, there's this ongoing kind of theme, as the movie goes on. Obviously, Abby at the beginning of the movie is just, just a girl looking, to have fun and maybe looking for a boyfriend or whatever. Then she's, in victim mode or in survival mode where, she's being chased by these crazy boys. And then, then she's side by side with serial killers and watching them, then kill these boys. And as and as that kind of happens, kind of being more and more okay with it. And then, how okay is she with it? And then how are the serial killers going to react to her later on as she becomes more and more okay with it? Again, something that would have been interesting if they had done it in the right way. I guess if the acting was done in a better way. It was also an interesting angle to go with, but I don't think they pulled out enough of it from it. Maybe taking too long to get there, or just what she ultimately, her ultimate role and everything was, and how I don't know. It seemed like it had those good pieces there, but then bringing it all together and making it happen just wasn't there. And I'm gonna just say that maybe it was the talking, just like I'm continue to say that it's the talking, or just the acting. Maybe a combination of both. So yeah, good ideas there, but overall just didn't work for me. So with that, I think I'm gonna give this one pool of blood. I don't like doing that, giving movies low scores like that. But I promise myself, I tell you guys all the time that I turn off movies and so forth. I think, one of the goals I'm going to have for this year is to maybe try to surprise you guys a little bit more and give you reviews where, oh, okay, he's got a review for this movie. Let's see what he says. But he's probably going to give it that score we already know. But no, I'm going to try to do some stuff, not be too harsh on movies. I don't like that. It's something I did at the beginning of time, a long time ago when I started doing this. But I do want to mix on and talk about some movies that maybe I didn't like and why I didn't like it. And, it is okay to not like stuff. But, not to do it from a bad standpoint, just be like, I just didn't like it. So yeah, it had possibilities there. There were some things that I liked. Just at the end of the day, wish they did it in a different way, or could have come up with something, taking those eyes and just ideas and then come up with something better. So one pool of blood for this one, and that is out of 5. horrorscorereviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all my reviews written in video. Certainly video reviews for a while now, so you can like, subscribe, and do everything else that everybody wants you to do here on YouTube. But if not, no worries, it is okay. I thank you for your time regardless. I know I do talk too much on these reviews. I do know, so it's okay. Twitter, Facebook, information down below. Feel free to join me there, talk about this movie, other movies, horror in general. And definitely in the comments section, if you actually enjoyed the movie or you really liked it, totally saw it a different way than I did, please feel free to put that in the bottom. It is okay that we disagree on this one. So with that, I will catch you in the next review, horror fans.